I hope that you enjoyed that. I personally enjoyed it very much, as well as all the questions. And now we will be moving on to our last two panels. Again, we're back with a headset, so I think you know the drill now, but I will just re-explain it. If you have a headset, please put it on now. You have two channels, channel 1 to my left and channel 1 to my right and channel 2 to my left. I will now introduce the panels for you. The first panel is ethics for entrepreneurs and investors. What are really the real challenges and opportunities of AI and machine learning today? In this panel, we will be moderated by Lazaros Polymenakos, a partner at EY Greece. And I would like to invite the moderator as well as the speakers on stage. Welcome. Let's give them a round of applause. This is panel 1, and you will be channel 1. So if you want to listen to this panel, please tune in to channel 1, and please write your questions in Aventura as usual. And for our second panel, digitalization and disruption for the future, this will be based on digital technology experts discussing the way on how we can digitalize. It will be moderated by Milady Stombo, a director at Microsoft, and I would like to invite her as well as all her speakers on stage. And this is panel 2, channel 2. So if you want to hear this panel, please log into channel 2. Please, again, do not forget Aventura. All your questions are coming in. Thank you for using it. We also have free MIT Wi-Fi. I was asked this question a couple of times. You can just find MIT, and you can just connect to the Wi-Fi. Thank you very much, and I hand it over to our moderators. So over to you.
So we are, as it was said, the ethics panel for AI. If you want to listen to digitization, you should switch to another channel. So we'll start with this, and we'll go around and introduce ourselves. Let me first introduce our panelists. There are distinguished people here. So I'll start with Anu. Please tell us a few things about yourself.
Well, thank you. Anu Anaswamy. I'm in the mechanical engineering department at MIT. And my background has been in the engineering world, and my areas of specialization are automation and decision-making in safety-critical systems.
Tyler?
Yeah, I was thinking about this panel, and the first internship I ever had, I had to debug software code with basically a recording algorithm monitoring everything that I was doing. And so then it could replicate me or replace me in all the actions that I was taking. And this was back in, well, a long time ago, 1998, which seems like forever at this point. But that got me so reminiscent about all of the very, very precursors of AI. And then I actually worked in the space shuttle program for NASA and aerospace for quite a while. And even that was really all about taking really complex math analysis, combining that into models that already existed, conservative models, some sort of like empirical envelopes. And so even that was kind of another precursor. And then beyond that, just as an entrepreneur, my first company 25 years ago was an e-commerce company. Then after that exit, started a content management system company, a CMS. Exited that company, then started a relevance personalization company, kind of a theme from the others, then exited that, and then started a payments network, which I recently exited as well. So between all of those four, there was actually this undercurrent of AI that I didn't even recognize at first. So particularly around anything of machine learning models, collaborative filters, everything on e-commerce, showing you relevant data sets. And then anti-fraud systems is another thing that I've gotten way, way, way too much experience in, for better or worse. And so, yeah, there's like all of this theme around this panel is really interesting. So great to be here and talk about some of it.
Well, welcome, Tyler. You seem to have a lot of experience, both, let's say, from work experience and also as an entrepreneur and a fund manager and other stuff. So, Snežina, maybe you can tell us a few things also about your experience so far.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Snežina Zacharia, and I'm the founder and CEO of Insurify. Insurify is a virtual insurance agent that is powered by artificial intelligence and natural language processing. We serve as an aggregator in the US. We are the #2 key platform for comparison of insurance. We focus on home, on car insurance as life insurance. But the key theme for the panel today and why I'm excited is that we have been very successful leveraging artificial intelligence in a lot of areas of our business, which I will be very excited to talk about, anywhere from initiation of the customer journey and identifying the right customers for which we would like to market, and then ultimately recommending the right insurance to the right customers based on their unique risk profiles.
Excellent. So, well, Theo?
Very nice to be here. Thank you very much. MIT class of 95, did my undergraduate in course 6 and 18, for those who understand what this means, computer science and math. And then started working on my PhD in MIT in the second half of the 90s on machine learning and computer vision back then. And then joined INSEAD Business School as a professor in 2001, where I've been there since, working always on something around technology and business, and lately technology, business, and risks/regulations/society. In addition to the academic path, of course, I've been involved in over 25 years, all sorts of different projects, including co-founding a tech trust and safety company called Tremo, which is a software company, enterprise software company, helping our clients manage technology-related risks, such as online trust and safety.
Okay, great. So I'll introduce myself also. Apart from being at EY, I have also been around, let's say, and I have used AI for several years. Before joining EY 2 years ago, I was at Alexa AI in the US, in Boston, and before that at IBM T.J. Watson Research Center for Watson, related to NLU. And even before that, I was in the area of intelligent systems, both as a professor and again at IBM for speech recognition and multimodal interfaces.
Did you work with Bill from the Entrepreneurship Center?
I'm sorry?
Bill Aulett? He's probably here. Did you work with him at IBM?
No, but there were many people that probably I don't know from IBM, and I'll be glad to meet them and share experiences. So going back to you, Anu, can you tell us a little bit about how you see, these new trends of AI affecting us, maybe in your field and also maybe society, since we are opening this up for the ethical aspects of AI?
Thank you. This is a great time to be doing research in the area of AI and machine learning, because what I see is happening is that, especially looking at it from an engineering point of view, there are these rules from physics, rules from chemistry that have to be followed. And that has to be merged with the tools that AI provides, which is very much from a data processing point of view. And so in order to really move the needle and take AI towards safety critical systems, these two rules and tools have to be merged together. And I really think that that's what the next decade will see. And I very much hope that the two players really come to the table and learn from each other and figure out how to make that marriage work.
So do you think that this will be AI learning the rules or guardrailing AI?
It has to be both. It has to be to ways in which we can leverage and understand what the power of AI is, and AI has to honor the limits and constraints. See, atoms and bits don't follow the same rules. Physical atoms have to obey the laws of physics, whereas the bits, the processing of information, sky is the limit. So how do you make sure that the decisions that you make are the right ones for, say, a car that is being self-driven, or for other kinds of engineered systems or robots that have to work with humans, and how you follow the safety guidelines and at the same time assist humans in making the right decisions. And for that, really, both of them have to happen.
Okay, so let's move on to Tyler. On the same topic, how do you see AI affecting your field of play and your customers maybe, or the things that you see in the market being an entrepreneur?
And I guess the one trend even that I would probably comment towards is how fast this is going to grow. And none of us, even the panels or anyone in this room, can probably even appreciate that. And that technology not only is on an accelerated growth curve, but I feel that a lot of technologies, particularly AI, I think is going to become more and more open. It's all about using data, right? AI almost doesn't work or have function without data. It's all about, there's more to it. I'm oversimplifying, but the data is the real critical ingredient. If you have data, access to data, if it's indexed appropriately, if it's good data, you can do, that's really the entire like heart of the system. And so to start having integrity, to trust where some of this is coming from, is data genuine, is it authentic? I think it's going to become more and more open. At least I hope it does also. And so if it becomes more open and there's more open source systems that are using this data, that is going to grow almost like a double exponential curve in that all of the information, not only is the data all available for everyone, but the analysis, the software, the platforms all now become open source for people to be able to build on top of. This will change. It's going to radically change how we're almost doing everything so incredibly quickly. And as I'm just thinking here, even something like an iPhone, right, that has completely revolutionized everything that we're doing. We can't even imagine lives not even with an iPhone or like a supercomputer in our pocket. And it's like 15 years old, 15 years. And so now when you take that curve and double it, let's say, you have the entire invention of a new device, new frameworks, new platforms in 7 years. And then it's going to be 3.5 years. And then it's 1.5 years. And so we're going to have 4 entire evolutions of software, like kind of amplification in 10 years, which I don't really think we can appreciate. And so that's the one, and we're already seeing that, right? ChatGPT was the #1 growing like consumer software in history, but like orders of magnitude above anything else. I can't remember the numbers. It was like 100 million in like a week.
We went to 100, it crossed the millions of users within 3.5 days. Or something like that, where it took, I don't know, other platforms before several years or months or years. Still, the time difference is
and we're just starting.
Wonderful.
Just starting.
Working also in the financials, market, how do you see, these new AI tools affecting various things in the financial operations? Because finance is at the bottom, money runs the world. So how is it going to change? Access to money or other things?
I'd say there's probably 2 main things that I would look at personally. The first one is that, and these are almost like idealisms too. This is what I think will happen, but I also want them to happen. The first one would be contextualizing money transfers or payments. So that's something that's very, very lacking across the entire world. Of whenever a payment is made, any sort of transaction is made, there's no context into that system. And I think if you had the context that something like AI could provide, understanding any other data around that transaction starts to like eliminate fraud. When you start looking at a lot of these cases of global fraud, large bank transfers, retail fraud, if you look at them like sort of in an isolated manner, they're almost laughable of how are they getting away with this? How does this happen? When the Bank of Bangladesh transfers $500 million somewhere on a random Tuesday, why would this ever happen, right? And so, but when you look at it, you see they got access to a key, the transaction was valid. But if you had the context of when, why, who, and all of the data, it actually becomes straightforward. Like a human looking at that system, I think could make a decision that's a lot easier. So having that sort of information, not only the data, but then sort of the analysis mechanism, I think will play across all sorts of financial markets, which is really exciting. And then the other one that I hope also adding into that would be the privacy component, and that I'm very, very concerned about just how technology has grown currently, even e-commerce, insurance. If I buy something online, I have to give them all the information about myself, my shipping address, my payment details. What do they need to know that for? If I'm just online buying a book, why do you need to know my address and where I live? And now that sits in a database that is going to be compromised 10 different ways, and does happen, right? So sure, you want to give information, but only to the relevant parties. So I'd love for things like zero knowledge proofs to become real in practice, and they are currently, but so adding that context into these types of financial transactions where you can basically, and for people that aren't aware of that, it's basically a zero knowledge proof is where I can prove something to you without giving the information itself. So think of it as if I'm buying alcohol, I can give some sort of proof to you that I am 18 or 21, but without any other information. So you don't know my birth date, you don't know my real age, but I'm just able to give you some sort of a proof, a token, a signature, or whatever it is, saying I am of age, because that's actually all they need to know. That's the decision point is, are you of age to buy alcohol, tobacco, whatever it is. But instead, I have to give you a piece of identification that now gives you my name and my address and everything, and it's all compromisable. And I think that gets very, very dangerous. And we've already seen that start to happen through various forms of identity theft and, again, financial fraud. So those two things I'd love to see start happening.
I'll come back to you because this opens another chapter of, who is monitoring whom and, and who gets all the information after all. But I'll come back to you. Let's move on to Snežina, who is an entrepreneur and, a successful businesswoman. And maybe she can tell us a few things about how they're using AI in their company and also what they see as the effect of this either on their services or on their clients.
So insurance has been an interesting industry because generally it's one of the later adopters of any types of technology. That said, the industry of itself is sitting on massive information, massive amounts of data, and it is great to see the impact that has made in just the last 5 years. There are multiple areas where AI is applicable and has started to be adopted in the insurance industry, but some of the areas we have been leveraging is in customer acquisition, and so we've built auto-bidding technologies that are able to sense different signals about different customers and use data, third-party data and our own data to be able to really automate the experience for customer acquisition and really try to outsmart the competition. And we are in an industry that is probably one of the most competitive in the United States and the most expensive to be able to acquire customers. And then thinking about the customer experience and the demographics of customers that we acquire and what the right types of policies and right types of carriers are. So we've built relatively sophisticated algorithms in place that allow us to recommend the right type of policies for the different customers. And then we're doing analysis on the back end that allow us to track. It's one thing what the carriers say as their customer risks appetites are, but another thing what they actually do well with. So we are applying the carrier appetite, the customer user demographics, and then what the actual performance is of each carrier on the platform to be able to recommend the best policies for them. AI in insurance is a very exciting area. It has impacted new product development. It has impacted underwriting and claim management. In terms of new product development, the area that I'm super excited about is telematics. And it's interesting because telematics has been very late on the adoption cycle for the United States. And part of the reason for that is that carriers cannot agree to share the data with each other. And if they don't have enough data, their algorithms are not optimized enough. So it has been lagging compared to other countries like in Europe, in Italy, and UK, and others. Claims management is a massive opportunity in terms of cost and risk mitigation. We've seen companies in the US that are using image recognition as well as natural language processing to be able to shorten the management and the processing of claims within minutes and really gather all the data that they can from the customer with third-party validation and try to process claims in a much more effective way. And then other areas that I think would be super exciting, that everybody thought will happen, but it still hasn't happened, is self-driving cars. I think that the use of telematics devices as well as generally AI in terms of truly automating the vehicle would be something that will be super disruptive. Fortunately for us, as a company that is making a lot of money in car shopping, it hasn't happened as fast as everybody initially predicted it will happen, but it is there, it will happen. And it will completely change the way carriers think about underwriting risks, who the right partner is or what the right types of risks they are, that they have to underwrite, thinking about completely new, changing new policies, new coverages, cyber risk, manufacturing risk for automating the vehicles and so forth. So Internet of Things is another key area where artificial intelligence has been extremely exciting from an insurance perspective. And this is where with connected devices, companies can start thinking from reactive way of risk management to proactive way of risk management by adding all of these monitoring devices in their homes, in the vehicles, as well as in wearable devices that can completely change the way we think about insurance.
Okay. I'll also come back to you because there are questions here that I have. For example, you mentioned that AI will be able to help us, with the wearable devices and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, who keeps, who collects, who knows this data is a question, right? And we have to see how we safeguard these things. Theo, we come to you now. Tell us also, as a professor and an entrepreneur, as I understand, what are your views on how AI is transforming our lives and maybe some of the ethical pitfalls that we have to...
Thanks. I'm lucky to be the last one, so I have...
No, we'll come back, now I'm going the other way around.
It's nice.
In ancient Greek times, they were reading 𝐓𝐶 like that, so we'll do that now.
Yeah. No, I'm lucky to be the last one because my job is easy. I only have to build on what everybody else said. So let me see if I remember and see what I will. A couple of big things. I'm also lucky because, as you said correctly, I'm both an academic and entrepreneur, and of course, a bunch of different hats. Hopefully, I'll provide some theoretical and practical perspectives here. Let me generalize on a couple of things you two said and something you said. You mentioned about things moving really fast, but also things moving really slow. And I'll only point out two things here. First, and this is not only from AI, this is not only from digital, this is also from other technologies, including the Industrial Revolution kind of technologies. It's well known and studied for many decades. The research is summarized in the following sentence. The biggest challenge in technology innovation is change of human behavior, period. And this comes at all stages, at the organizational change stage of adopting a technology, at the society stage, et cetera, regulatory stage, and everything else, policy, all that. That's the first thing. Second point is, we massively overestimate how fast technology will progress in the short term. That's why everybody says about all sorts of things, hype and all this. But we massively underestimate the impact and change of technology in the long term. So whoever tries to make any predictions about 2 years from now will probably overestimate. Whoever tries to make any predictions about 20 years from now probably will underestimate massively. That's very important. So this has a little bit about the speed of change and what are both the perceptions and the human nature aspect of this. You mentioned something about physics. And it reminded me of a wonderful article from a physics Nobel laureate, Eugene Wigner. The unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in natural sciences. Maybe you know it. It's a beautiful article back in 1955, 60. At the end of physics revolution, the question is, how come mathematical equations can capture what happens in the universe? Today, we are working on the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics for the social and human sciences. How can mathematics, ChatGPT, capture human language and ethics? We wrote an article, about 20 of us, co-authors from MIT, from Stanford, Harvard, Oxford University, INSEAD, myself, and a bunch of others, which has a title that says it all. It's called Computational Ethics. The idea is how do you develop products where the AI exhibits behavior which at least is perceived as ethical, if not safe. That's very important. Second thing you said, another thing you said, by the way, is a merging of physical and digital, of course, huge. And let me add to this the next stage, which is synthetic biology and organic material. I don't know what comes over there, but I think this will be a huge, exciting, and potentially terrifying next step. If we get there, if we don't blow up on the way. Which takes me to, before I go to the blow up, takes me to one last point about what you said about applications of AI. You mentioned some insurance-specific ones, but you mentioned a number of them which are industry agnostic. Anything that has to do with customers is game. And that's where most companies, large companies, start, customer-related. Churn management, pricing, recommendation, you name it. Personalization, advertisement. Having said this, we are really early, really early in the adoption of AI by business and industries around the globe. Of course, you go to Silicon Valley and smaller companies, obviously it's more advanced. But you go to most of the world, most of the S&P 500 kind of companies around the globe, CAC around or whatever, FTSE in different countries. And most of the companies barely have any AI, which means that there is enormous opportunity. The journey is just starting in terms of adoption of existing technologies, but also in terms of innovation.
Yes.
So finally, just to close here, because that's your question, and maybe you come back to this. As I mentioned, I've been working on AI for about 25 years, a bit more actually. And I was struck about 6-7 years ago, together with a lot of other people, including everybody I worked with, hundreds of people the past 25 years on AI, by the following realization. We've been developing machine learning and AI algorithms and tools for 25 years, if not 50 if you go back. And nobody among the engineers, not a single person among the engineers, seriously considered the risks these technologies create. This consideration happened about 7-8 years ago among the academic community and maybe a bit more among the regulatory and policy community. And the huge wave now, it's a huge wave, is around how to ensure, you saw the letter of Elon Musk and other 1,000 people yesterday, how to ensure we manage the risks of technology, or that technology creates, including the internet, by the way. I mentioned about online trust and safety and all sorts of bad stuff happening online, right? And how to protect children, people, everything, brands online. How to make sure we manage the risks of these technologies, not only because you want to avoid the risks and the downsides and the blow-ups, but also if we don't do this, we also risk to stall the innovation because people will react, the Elon Musk letter. So we must do this, and we can talk about this whenever you like.
No, we'll talk about it. Basically, you're referring to today's announcement that several also academics, entrepreneurs, and Elon Musk that you say, but also Joshua Bengio. Many may not know him, but he's one of the fathers, let's say, along with Hinton of modern AI, right? And of many of the things that we are doing today. And they are saying that somehow we have to slow down the evolution of this technology in order to grapple with other things, the ethics or the social implications, because there are also effects on the job market or other things. These are social effects that it's going to have. But, you know, going the other way around and returning to you, Snežina, do you think, you said many things are going to be automated, maybe in the front office or the back office. However, a consumer or a client has to have a way to somehow find their right in this. So they have things, the system takes a decision, and this may be in their favor or not in their favor. Somehow there has to be additional things that happen, because if you leave the AI just take all the decisions, then somehow we are going to live in a very cruel world, I think. So what is your take on that?
So the insurance industry has a major problem with that. We have done a lot of studies. We've gathered quoting data from over 70 million quotes. And what we found is that users that are Latino and Black pay on average 20% more for car insurance. And that's a major problem. So the way states, and the US is very unique because every state practically runs as a separate country. So we are managing like 50 countries in the business. But what they are doing is basically deciding on a regulatory level to exclude certain factors that are damaging to the rating, or they're really disproportionately penalizing certain communities. And unfortunately, AI has the opposite effect of actually making it even worse, because the data is there. So it's not like they don't have the right to do it. It's just that when you look at it from a demographic perspective, it disproportionately penalizes certain communities. And it doesn't allow for the individual to grow out of their status quo, right? Like, then you start asking, like, do you give the opportunity for certain individuals to really outgrow their generation, outgrow the zip codes that they live in, and really think about the human person beyond what the data and the demographics and their algorithms recommend. So a few states, and not surprisingly, Massachusetts and California are the only two states in the whole US that do not factor credit as a rating factor. Every other state in the US factors, the insurance companies factor credit as a major rating factor. And the other key factor is zip code, obviously. Zip codes are aggregating in the specific communities. California is the only state in the United States that doesn't factor zip code as a rating factor. I don't think that the problem is easy, and the more automated it is, the worse it will be. A lot of carriers actually do not use major machine learning algorithms to be able to underwrite users. They use statistical algorithms, but even that is bad enough, disproportionately penalizing Black and Latino communities.
So maybe there should also be, when we put these systems in, some appeal process, some other processes that will involve humans to review or to see what has happened with the automated systems and take a second level of decision, let's say, ruling them or explaining better and providing options to the clients, of financial or other services or insurance services.
There has to be a human involved, but my take is really what they need to start with is just excluding certain factors that are disproportionately penalizing certain communities.
They create bias, basically.
They create bias. They increase the bias in the recommendation.
Okay, coming back to you, Tyler, I had a question. So on one hand, you said that you would like these systems to know more about the transactions and the background and the context so that, fraud is prevented. At the same time, you wanted privacy. So these two things don't go together very well. Because if, whatever automated system starts knowing everything about you, oops, I'm going to lose my phone. But if they know everything about you, regardless of whether you are a criminal or not, they will know it and they can use it. Somebody, anyway, can use it. So what do you think about that? How can we safeguard against that?
I think a lot of it will just be around, I guess the opportunity is like in synthesizing data, I guess I would put it, in that, so you have all this data, it's really how you use it, what is the input and what is the output. So, and like those even sorts of roles, on the insurance side, like I feel like especially with any of these AI products, like insurance agents should be the first ones to go, how they're literally just like an interface for collecting data and then recommending something. So I hope that you're very successful in what you're doing, because that is just an industry that should be like, and sorry to any offense of people in the audience that might be an insurance agent or like a real estate agent, like that doesn't need to exist anymore. Like it's literally, you're taking all the information, synthesizing it, and then giving recommendations or pricing information or anything else. And that's something that even in the very, very elemental forms of AI currently could do that perfectly. Like that's just, so those sorts of industries are very obvious to me. That should just go away and be replaced very, very quickly with the exact same product that's just infinitely better. So then to that point of what data is exposed or how it's used, I think there's just a big element of what that data is and is the raw data accessed. I think that's a big component, and that even in an insurance model, like they don't necessarily need to know all of the raw data. You can get some sort of cleansed version that's either a signal, it's a positive, it can be binary, it can be combined together. There's lots of, I think, techniques that you can take that don't expose all of the underlying data to make it either stealable, compromisable, or then exploited in like a very negative way. And it's about what you would define as like indexing data, because all this data is out here. You look at something like Google, right? And they've obviously made massive investments in this space now of what they might, evolve their product into. We use Google for everything, but we're still interacting with it in a very awkward way, right? When you use Google search, that is not semantic search. That is not us having communication. It's very much it's like, what do I want to do? And now how do I interact with Google in the way that I think I'm going to get the best results, right? And we've all done that of like, what are my search terms going to be? And then that just reinforces the model even further. So it's not broken, it works really well, but what if that all now evolves, to the positive of having this data now more available or indexed in more meaningful ways where you can have a more rich search experience. And that's just not even Google, that's anything, whether it's car insurance, whether files on your computer, whether it's a call center, whether anything, right? Now being able to get much more rich results or relevance to your data. And I'm hoping that's something that Google would even do. I mean, I don't know about people in here, but I mean, I would pay a lot of money to Google on a monthly basis for a 100x better search. right? Without needing to rephrase searching, getting much more relevant, no ads. And that's a business model shift. And so that's something I'm really excited about in AI in general, is that I can see the business models themselves start to shift a lot. But that could be an example, counterexample.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
yes, I am coming to you.
That?
Yes, I would like you to expand on that. And also, I would like to ask you, how do you expect for critical systems, to rate AI to do the job? In the sense that we train people for many years and then we have a lot of exams and other tests and evaluations and so on. You think a similar model is going to be happening for these systems, and therefore we'll have also trial and error and failures in the meantime to pay for, as we do with humans, or something else should be done here?
Oh, that's a great question. But before I come to that, you're absolutely right that privacy and security are two sides of the coin, and at a 30,000 feet level, there's more certainly a trade-off between these very broad and very important systems concepts. But then as you zoom in, and Tyler is absolutely right, there's a lot that we can do in terms of processing of data, and not all data is really relevant in order to really make the system perform the way we want, whether it's in terms of efficiency or safety or criticality. So in that space, there is a lot of the research that is happening and a lot of progress that can happen that ensures that basically what's the right amount of protection that you provide to the customer, and at the same time the right amount of information for the infrastructure to really be improved. And so I don't necessarily see one as a showstopper compared to the other. And so there's a lot, I think, of interesting things that are going to come down the pike in that topic. Now, when it comes to interaction between AI and safety critical systems, every large infrastructure plays by different rules. And even like, for instance, if you're talking about safety, self-driving cars, the way in which you would design the rules and the kind of AI stamps that you get would be something that will have to evolve as the context changes. So from that point of view, I think it's really important to understand, once again, the marriage between physics and information as to how you figure out the right data that is coming from the actual machine, like in this case, the car, and connect that with the information that you have to process in order to develop the AI rules. So I think that has to be a dynamic, evolutionary concept rather than something that is a fixed set of prescriptions.
Yeah, won't that take a lot more time to do? Anyway,
yeah,
it will, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, this is a complex problem, but then, we have a lot of really smart folks who are ready to jump in.
Okay, so let's take a few questions from the audience,
I'm
if you would like.
Here,
yes.
Because I have to add to this. And somehow
okay,
it matters
sure.
to me last again. I don't know how you do it. No matter what, I'm last on. It's great. Thank you for this, because I can build again. First of all, I love what you said. Appeals. Humans appealing to AI misbehavior and monitoring. Humans are the driver's seat and monitor bad incidents. The OECD is building an AI incidents database. A partnership with AI is building a global AI incidents database. I know the countries of the OECD, governments are interested in building AI incidents database for themselves, national ones. In Tremo, the startup I co-founded, it's exactly what we're doing for online incidents. Okay. We humans are monitoring the internet to identify bad content and behavior, report, and if we disagree with the online platform for the decision they make, appeal to them. And all this requires software infrastructure, which is exactly what we're developing in the startup. First point, we have to think about appeals and human-in-the-loop processes, or in appeal. Second point, the trade-off is very important. There is also a trade-off between fairness and accuracy. Explainability and accuracy, although that trade-off is a bit more interesting. I have done some research you can find on my publications regarding that trade-off not being what we think it is. However, there are solutions which can help us. For example, let me give you an example on privacy and accuracy, safety, or whatever. There is a technology called federated learning.
Yep.
And the idea there is the following. I don't need the data, I need the model. I don't care about the data. So I'll take the algorithm, the parameters of the model, whatever the model is, train it on some data of one hospital, one company, and pass the model to another hospital, another company, or another device, mobile device, train it with that data, and I don't pass the data. Of course, I have to do it in a way we cannot reverse engineer the data or identify, not as obvious as it means. All I'm saying is that there are also technical solutions and technical innovations. And finally, last point, and I'll end with that to come back to you to what you said. There's a wonderful argument, and also a very nice article written a few years back by somebody, I don't remember now who it's from, which basically says data that are used for the algorithms are the mirror of human behavior. So it's not that the AI are biased. We are biased.
Absolutely.
And now the question is, can we debias those systems in ways which are not only debiased once, but also debiased continuously, given how they evolve and how the environment evolves, which takes me back to close the loop. Monitoring of the AI systems and of technology by humans who are in the driver's seat using infrastructure and technology that we develop. In this case, when I say we, I mean also both the humans and Tremo in this case.
I have one quick point
Okay,
to that.
I would like to move
I do one
You want to
to
oppose this?
question.
Allow
I just have one point.
I
Just
thought the same
using
question.
Our audience is short, as we do not, we're not
This one's
addressing
really
their
short.
questions.
Yeah, go
It's
for it.
actually a little to the audience. To exactly your point about, you even mentioned driver's seat, which got me thinking about this. So you look at ethics of AI and human interactions. Let's say you have something like Amazon, and it knows you're the driver in a vehicle. You're driving. It has accelerometer data or whatever. Does it allow you to buy something? If you're browsing and you're looking to check out and buy something, does it make the button really big so you just will buy it even though you're driving and distracting? Or does it not let you buy something? And who makes that decision? Right? Does the model make it? Do people make
it's
it?
very simple. The market, okay, there is a wonderful book
Yeah.
by a Harvard law professor in 2000, Understanding the Internet, Code as Law, or something like this, Lawrence Lessig. It's a required reading for MBAs when I teach at Initial. What does it say? There are 4 things that constrain and determine our behavior. Law, which social norms, economics, so at the market at the end will be fine, of course. If the market says, if the price premiums of if the insurance premiums are high when you press a button, guess what happens?
Yeah.
And technology. So can we do it? These are 4 things, right? How can we combine those 4 things to make the decisions about what you just said? And it's not only technology, notice that, right? It's very important. Not only technology, it's critical.
So I have a very interesting question from the audience. So here it is. It says different generations follow different values and have different adoption of technology. So how can AI ethics include this aspect of different generation needs?
So I'm going to generalize to this, not just different generations, also different geographies and different cultures at the company level and the national level. No, China is not the same as the US, is not the same as France or Germany or Europe or the rest of European countries or other countries, right? Interesting, here I make a comment. The European AI Act, which is under development, somewhere starts by saying we want AI with European values. When I saw this, like, okay, those guys lost it. And we wrote an article, actually, with my colleague from Harvard Law School, with Associate Dean at Harvard Law School, at Lancet Digital Health for those of you interested. I don't remember the exact title, but basically it says what the European regulators are talking about makes no sense. Because, for example, you train an AI model on data in China. What values will that have? Of course, not data. Second example, you export an AI model trained on European values in another country. Will it get adopted? And why should you impose your European values or whatever values, American values, whatever values, right, to another place? So it's not just intergenerational. And at the end of the day, and it's right, it's a nice question because it puts in the center the idea of values and principles. And that's why the OECD starts from the AI principles. Regulations start from the AI principles. Governance starts from the principles, and then you go down and you implement them. So we have to coordinate at some level about cross-generationally and cross-geography and culture, what are the common values? So far, the common values we have, we took 3 years to come there, literally. When you see, it's like, how come it took you 3 years, right? The OECD, I'm involved in that. Took 3 years or something like this to come up with like 10 AI values at the OECD. And when you see them, it's like, took you 3 years, and the answer is yes, because it's a lowest common denominator of, I don't know, 39 countries negotiating for 3 years, what do we put there, which is common across all the world. And that's the exercise I have to do.
So another question that seems to be a recurring theme is basically, okay, we are saying ethics, we are saying no bias, we are saying this, we are saying that. So how are we going to enforce it? Okay, is it automated systems? Is it something else that we are going to do, regulatory or other things? How are we going to take steps to make, the impact of AI positive and in an ethical sense?
I think it builds on what Theo just mentioned, which is making sure that we have the right processes and procedures and people monitoring, and then also understanding and analyzing how different data points are influencing and recommending decisions, and then making conscious trade-offs of maybe removing certain signals that are increasing bias in favor of de-learning or removing the bias.
I completely agree. Those 4 things that you mentioned, Theo,
Exactly.
are really the ones that are going to make us move in the right direction. Economics matters, technology matters, the social norms matter, law matters. And these 4, again, these stakeholders from these 4 domains have to come together to really address as to the right way in which ethically appropriate something that really benefits society are the ones that have to be implemented.
Let me build on this. Yes and no. Interestingly, I was saying that depending on how much weight you put on the economics versus the technology versus the regulation, you get the US versus Europe.
Absolutely.
Right?
So the specific geography,
Exactly.
the specific generation will determine the application.
And of course, social norms are what they are. First point. Second point is that there is plenty of work done on how to implement all those things. Technical tools, what-if tool, explainability tool, fairness tool, technology tools, right? Federated learning. Processes about safety by design, product development. You have to take into account safety by design from day 1, not from day 25, right? Processes, product development processes. Governance, and which has to do within the company developing products, the information flow has to go up, down, so that we know on top what's happening in all levels. And of course, regulation. And then you have other things like certification of products. I've been working with the IEEE, the IEEE is doing a lot of stuff, ISO also, to develop certification standards. So I'll give you an example. Today, when you buy a child's toy, it has a CE, certifying that the material is safe for the child if they put it in their mouth, right? Think of a doll that has computer vision in the eyes seeing the child, natural language talking with the child, chatbot, GPT or whatever, and connected to the internet. And learning from the child. This is scary. And it's learning and evolving the behavior and can have emergent behavior, as they say, for these new AI systems. How do you make sure this behaves? So this toy will also have a CE saying AI certified. And there are certification standards for this, which are then audited, including monitoring processes to monitor the behavior as it emerges over time. These are processes that are getting built as we speak.
Yes, but it's not easy, and I think they have to come together fast because technology is moving faster than our ethics or our regulatory or other systems.
They just stopped it yesterday, right? They just stopped it yesterday, right?
They tried to stop it. They haven't stopped it.
There's one comment. How do you do it when companies, corporations are profit-driven? And unfortunately, sometimes...
I love what you are saying because that's the market.
Exactly.
So the technology evolves, but it does not evolve independent of the market. At the end of the day, if the customers of company A, insurance company A, who does biased decisions, don't like going there because it's biased decisions. If an online platform has behaviors of people and bots, Twitter or whatever, that users don't like, advertisers will not go, users will not go, and the market will speak.
Yeah, but
and the market speaks as fast as technology, if not faster.
Yeah, but the market is also biased, okay? So we speak faster in the market, but we are also biased. Even though some things are bad for us, we buy them, okay? So let me come to another thing, and actually this is directly targeted to you, Tyler. You mentioned saying about zero proof. Zero knowledge proof, and they are very interested to hear a little bit more about how it works and how it could be utilized. So maybe if you can elaborate for a few minutes. We don't have much time, but...
Yeah, if I try to be really, really straightforward, you just take a whole bunch of data, you run it through something almost like very, very complicated math, and then it can just give you some sort of result. So it's almost like it could be like a binary input. So without revealing any of the underlying data, the one physical example that I love that I've thought through is if you guys have ever thought of or ever seen the Where's Waldo book, right? He's Waldo, he's somewhere within this huge landscape. And if you say, can you tell me where Where's Waldo is, right? You have to point to him. So now you're revealing the location of Waldo, so that clearly doesn't work. So can you actually convince someone that you know where Waldo is without giving any information about the location of Waldo, which is seemingly very impossible. But one way you could do it is you could have a cutout, a very large white cutout that just has a cutout of Waldo, right? And so it's a white sheet you basically put over the book, right? And all it has is the cutout of Waldo. And you can move it all around, and so you can see Waldo through the cutout, but the back of the book is like obfuscated from the big sheet. So you actually now know that I know where Waldo is, but you have no data on where it's positioned into the book or the frame is, which is kind of neat. So that's like a physical example of like what a zero knowledge proof would create, and that I can irrefutably prove to you that I know something without revealing you any of the underlying data.
Okay. And I have a final question from the panel. So many of you, or all of you possibly in your careers, have been entrepreneurs. And now there has been a big boom in startups around AI and so on. What kind of, let's say, advice do you have for those people who are trying to change the world and their lives by having a startup? So anyone who wants to pick it up, or all of you?
I can start.
Okay.
We have only 30 seconds. So my advice is first start with a big problem. Make sure you're really solving a problem, because a lot of people are working on issues that they decide are issues, but nobody else can confirm that. Also, feel free to share your idea with others and get input and get feedback. Ideas are cheap, execution is really hard. So don't think or be afraid that somebody's gonna steal your idea and run with it. I think that there is a lot of benefit in being able to get input and also validate your idea. The way I started Insurify, I got into an accident, and then I spent 3.5 hours looking for quotes online, only to find out that I had to basically build a complex spreadsheet. And finally, make sure you're surrounded with the best people and try to find a strong entrepreneur.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your attention and your time, and thank you for having us.
The other panel finished on time.
So the other panel also, clapped us.
So you have to clap louder now, right?
Let's clap back.